Do you recommend, from what you've seen from your clients, like a good number of sleep that they have to get?
Yeah, I mean, the studies say it as well, and that's what I teach is 6+ hours a night. If you can, especially if you're lifting heavy and you're trying to maximize muscle gain, you need to make sure you're getting eight or more. If people ask me for my most important supplement for anything fitness and health related, building muscle, losing fat, any of that, I say sleep. If you're in the gym and you're doing the same weights that you've been doing 5 years ago, you're doing something wrong.
Right, you're not stressing your muscles, right?
Yeah, same weights and same reps 5 years ago, yeah, you're doing something wrong. And basically you've just gotten complacent is what that comes down to. Cardio can help you lose fat. Cardio cannot help you build muscle. Weight training can help you lose fat. Weight training can help you build muscle.
What is the biggest myth about gaining muscle while losing fat?
Oh, that's a good question. So I think the biggest myth about that is that you have to choose one or the other. They're two completely separate systems. Gaining muscle is completely different than losing fat.
Yeah.
Okay, fat is just energy storage, whereas building muscle doesn't even happen when you're using the energy, right? That is stored. So two completely separate things. You can do both at the exact same time. But to do it properly and to make sure that you're not burning your muscle and utilizing the fat for storage requires certain parameters and things they have to focus on, which is sleep, protein intake.
And that's for gaining muscle, or for losing fat, or for both?
Or for when you're trying to do both, because if one or both of those are off, you'll probably lose your muscle instead of losing fat. So what you have to do in order to do both at the same time is that obviously you have to strength train, and that gets really hard to do when you're in a deficit, but it's doable. And you have to make sure that you're getting proper sleep and recovery, because you get the two same people, exact same diet, exact same deficit, exact same training regiment, and they lose the exact same amount of pounds on the scale, amount of weight on the scale. The person that sleeps less than, and there's studies for this, that sleeps less than 6 hours a night on average, even though they lost the exact same amount of weight, that was muscle. A lot of that was muscle. The person that slept more than 6 hours a night on average, most of their weight loss came from fat.
Yeah.
So in order to do both at the same time, or to make sure that you aren't sacrificing muscle while you're losing fat, you have to make sure that that's in place. Then gaining muscle requires you to just go close to failure on a very regular basis in the gym on certain movements, compound lifts, making sure that you're stimulating muscle growth. Okay, and then you have to feed it enough protein to be able to rebuild, and enough sleep to be able to use that protein to rebuild.
Yeah, going back to what you were saying, sleep seems to be the cure for a lot of things. Like it seems to be the cure for like depression. Mm-hmm. It seems to be the cure for brain fog.
Yeah.
What is it about sleep correlated to like gaining muscle and losing fat? What is kind of like, maybe I guess you could say the science behind that?
Yeah. Well, sleep is pretty much, it regulates your entire body. Think of it as like when you go to sleep at night and you're plugging in your phone to recharge. If you don't plug it in to recharge, it's going to die.
Yep.
Same thing with your body. If you're not recharging your body, then you're not going to be efficient. You're not going to be able to do these processes and things throughout the day. You're not going to be sharp. Everything starts to break down. So sleep is literally where all the magic happens. You could be doing every single thing right in the gym to gain muscle and lose fat, and in your nutrition as well. You could be doing all the right things, but if you're not getting that sleep, none of that matters.
Yeah, I agree with that, by the way. Do you recommend, from what you've seen from your clients, like a good number of sleep that they have to get?
Yeah, I mean, the studies say it as well, and that's what I teach is 6+ hours a night. If you can, especially if you're lifting heavy and you're trying to maximize muscle gain, you need to make sure you're getting eight or more.
8 or more.
Yeah,
okay,
8 or more on average per night. And then quality of sleep is another thing. So you can still be getting 8 hours of sleep, but if you're like taking edibles or smoking weed, drinking alcohol, these things are all going to inhibit the quality of that sleep.
Yeah, funny thing is that like this is pretty much how I got sober, and did martial arts in the Save My Life podcast. And
okay.
what I figured was, or when I was getting drunk a lot, blacking out a lot, I was I'd go to sleep and I thought I'd get the proper sleep because I was just lights out.
Mm-hmm.
But what I actually came to find out was it fucked up my REM, like my rapid eye movement.
Yeah.
And I was probably waking up in between and having a hard time going into deep sleep, which takes a while.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like now that I'm sober, man, I feel fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Obviously, along with my sleep stack with magnesium, apigenin, and all that stuff.
Nice.
Like sleep is so important. So I definitely agree with it.
Well, and it's funny because like a lot of people they'll stop drinking alcohol and stuff like that and start to see, and you'll probably find this too, is that now you don't need as much sleep to get the same type of recovery as you used to get. Now, if you even have more than that, you wake up and you just feel incredible. You recover really well. Your joints feel good. Your brain is sharp. You have a lot more energy throughout the day. But here's the funny thing is a lot of people will switch from alcohol and they'll switch to another crutch.
Yeah.
Usually weed.
Yep.
Weed is proven, especially if you take it in any type of way around bedtime, it will keep you from getting good quality REM sleep. Your REM sleep dramatically drops. And that is the sleep that we all need the most. If you get a small amount of REM sleep, just a small increase in that REM sleep is more than just having hours more of non-REM sleep. REM sleep is like powerful. When you take like a nap in the middle of the day and it's only like 45 minutes, but you dream and you wake up and you just feel sharp and you're like, oh, dude, I'm good to kill the rest of my day.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
powerful REM sleep.
Yeah, because there was a lot of, maybe not so much now, but then there was a lot of signaling of, the hustle and grind culture. It's kind of like, you probably shouldn't take a nap because you only live once and you got to maximize your day. Dude, I'm a big napper, man. I'm a big napper.
I love naps, dude. I survive on naps.
Yeah, exactly. Man.
But actually now that I've really cut back on my drinking, because I drink very regularly and I'm open to people having that kind of lifestyle.
Sure.
You don't have to really cut all of it 100% to build fat and like have a lean body. But it does help a lot. It helps so much. And since I've started to do that, my productivity levels are way higher.
Yeah, like I always say on this podcast, everything in moderation, right?
Yes.
But that is the problem, is moderation.
Yeah.
So for some people.
Yeah, but usually we start going, it's the slippery slope idea. It's like moderation's cool, but you're now at the steepest part of the slope and it's like you got to pull back.
Yeah, you're towing the line a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Otherwise, then you go way too far. Now you're past moderation.
Exactly. Yeah, that's great information on sleep, by the way, because I'm glad a bunch of content creators that I watch, they're big on that. That's like the number one. Number one remedy for muscle and gain
as
weight.
In my business, I tell my clients that's the number one supplement. If people ask me for my most important supplement for anything fitness and health related, building muscle, losing fat, any of that, I say sleep.
Yeah.
But like what about like? And I'm like, no, sleep. There's always a way. All of us, there's a way that we can improve our sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of us drink, most of us smoke weed, most of us don't block out the blue light before bed. All these things, eat too close to bedtime. That's a whole nother can of worms. Can you eat before bedtime? Can you not? How does that work?
Yeah. What's your basic remedy? Maybe not so like, name every supplement that you take, but what would you recommend for someone that has a hard time sleeping or is diagnosed with like hardcore insomnia? What steps can they take since sleep is the cause for gaining more muscle and losing fat? I think it's very important that we talk about it. So what would you recommend to someone that are in the beginning stages of
that could be a lot of things in play though as to why they're not sleeping well. So it's hard to name like one thing, but if I were to overgeneralize and just state one or two things, is I would state magnesium. Supplementing magnesium really helps to relax the muscles, relax the body. Magnesium is responsible for thousands of processes within your body that are like super crucial to your health and your sleep. Overall, magnesium is probably the number one.
This is right before bed, or is it just throughout the day?
Well, you will notice that your body will relax a little bit so that it can help you get into more of like a relaxed state before you go to sleep. So Perfect. Magnesium before bed. I know there are different kinds of magnesium, so I'm not really sure exactly which. I haven't looked into it, which magnesium is the best for that.
Yeah.
And there probably is one, but everyone else can go and figure that out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Huberman talks about it.
Yeah.
He recommends 3 and 8.
Okay.
Magnesium 3 and 8, and then I've heard glycinate, but that's all across the board, like you said.
I use the glycinate right now at home,
Yeah.
and that one makes me relax and it helps me sleep, and I sleep pretty deep.
Yeah.
I have some pretty dope dreams when I take magnesium before bed. If I have to wake up extra early, I sometimes will not take magnesium before bed just so it's easier to wake up because it helps me relax that much.
As long as they're not like wet dreams, right?
No, God, no.
might be.
No, nothing like that. Nothing like that.
That's deep sleep,
My
man.
poor girlfriend.
Right. Sleep on the couch.
Yeah, I would have to go and sleep on the couch with the dog.
Okay, so you mentioned about you like weight training, right? Resistance training.
Mm-hmm.
So when I first started working out a while ago, and I'm sure this is for most people, they'll tend to look at cardio as a big weight loss kind of tool, right? That's what they'll look to first. Like they'll run on the treadmill, they'll look at their time, and then they'll say, "Yeah, I ran for 20 minutes." But the problem is, it's almost like they're only losing like 300 calories, for a 20-minute fucking 10-mile run or something.
Yeah.
Why would you say that resistance training helps lose more fat than cardio?
Oh, I mean, that's easy. I mean, for a lot of people, it's not easy, and it's not.
People just hate to do weight training, by the way. That's probably why.
Yeah, they do. It's hard because you have to push yourself. Whereas easy,
like a mental
steady state cardio is easy, but it is a great form of cardio. If you're trying to get your activity levels up, then I would do steady state cardio. That's what I would recommend for somebody that is already very sedentary, that needs to just move the needle a little bit more and be more active. That's where I would start them.
Yeah.
But as far as what is the best way if someone is going to listen to everything I tell them to do to lose fat and build muscle, I would say that if they are limited on time, then they need to weight train the most. If it comes between doing the cardio and doing the weight training for a 30-minute period of time, and they're a very busy individual and they need to get their activity levels up, but they also want to gain muscle and lose fat, you need to weight train. Cardio, that's not going to be. Cardio is really good for heart health, lung health, and circulation. But in my opinion, that is not the best way for fat loss and muscle gain at all. It doesn't do it. It does not do anything to build muscle. Let's put it simply. Cardio can help you lose fat. Cardio cannot help you build muscle. Weight training can help you lose fat. Weight training can help you build muscle. But also what weight training does is it increases your testosterone levels and your growth hormone, which helps you build muscle. Which also at the end of the day, because muscle is an active tissue in the body, whereas fat is not, the more muscle you build, the higher your metabolic rate is going to be. So it also helps you to start burning more calories outside of the gym because you have more muscle. It's an active tissue that requires a lot of maintenance.
Yeah.
Okay, and your body wants to preserve muscle the best it can as long as you're giving it the protein to do so.
Yeah. I heard this guy, Dr. Mike, he was talking about, he's like some big YouTube guy, and he was asked, what is muscle or what is resistance training good for? And that's exactly what you said, losing fat, gaining muscle, and all the above. And what he said about cardio was, what cardio was good for is everything else, meaning regulating your sleep,
Hormones too.
Yeah, regulating your sleep and all the cardiovascular things, which is needed.
Very important.
Yeah, because I think cardiovascular symptoms of cardiovascular or heart disease is the #1 killer now, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's.
But also think about this as well. Cardio is getting your heart rate up, usually past the 120 to 145. That's like, there's different zones for it, but that's generally kind of where most people try to stick for cardio, is in between that range, like zone 2 and stuff like that. It helps you be really healthy. But if you're doing a duration of a workout and strength training, your heart rate also goes up to that a lot.
Right.
Like majority of your workout time will be in that range as well. So you don't think about it very much, even though they're using different systems. You're using your more like aerobic and anaerobic. Right. They're two separate. The aerobic one obviously uses a lot more air. You're doing a longer distance. The anaerobic one, you're using glycogen storage in your muscles. Regardless, though, it is pumping your blood and your heart is getting that workout.
from weightlifting.
Yep. And as long as you are getting up into that zone, you're going to get the circulation benefits and the heart health benefits, even if you're not really getting the same type of workout because it's anaerobic versus aerobic.
Yep.
But regardless, you're still crossing off a couple of those, and your lungs are getting a workout because you're huffing and puffing trying to move this weight.
Right.
So in my opinion, a weight training workout is going to be superior to that of cardio, but it is harder.
Yes.
So as a trainer, it comes down to knowing the client.
Right.
Is this client motivated? They want to work out. They're ready to go. Or is this client unmotivated, but they really, and they're not used, they're very sedentary and they're not used to pushing themselves. Okay, so let's get them just moving.
Yeah, so that's a good rule of thumb. If someone, or if whoever's goal is, if they're trying to lose weight and lose fat and all the above, try resistance training. And how would you recommend doing that? Obviously, this, like, start off with lightweight? Is it high reps? How would you go about telling a client to do that?
Now, is this client a complete beginner?
Let's just say because most
this
people,
client's a complete beginner. There are 3 steps or 3 phases. There is beginner, intermediate, and advanced lifters. Beginner does not have the stabilization. Beginner does not know the form, does not know how it feels, doesn't know the right movements. They need to learn form first. Lightweight, learn the form, feel the muscles. Then second, you start getting into the intermediate where they are experienced. They know the form. They've been consistent for a while, for about a year or so. And then now they need to really start focusing on connection and progressive overload. Okay.
And for some people, that means
connecting to the muscle that you're trying to target.
Okay. And progressive overload.
And progressive overload, meaning doing more volume in that given exercise every week. Progressing the overload, increasing the weight, or increasing the reps.
Right.
Every single week by just a small margin, very small margin every single week.
Yeah.
Because you have to give your muscles new stimulus to adapt. If you're in the gym and you're doing the same weights that you've been doing 5 years ago, you're doing something wrong.
Right. You're not stressing your muscles, right?
Yeah. Same weights and same reps 5 years ago. Yeah. You're doing something wrong. And basically you've just gotten complacent is what that comes down to.
Yeah. I mean, that's all. I mean, that should come naturally. That's got to be boring, pushing the same weight.
It is.
Just for 5 years.
It'll maintain. It'll maintain.
Right.
If you're happy with where you're at and you're doing that more of as a mental release now and you don't care to build more, then that's okay.
Yeah.
A beginner, obviously, then they get to that intermediate phase, right? After a year or so, or some people can do it a little faster. They really learn, they learn fast. And maybe they were athletes when they were kids. So usually those guys or girls progress a little bit faster. And then you get to this point to where just those simple concepts of connecting and pushing yourself aren't enough. Now you need to learn how to completely optimize every single movement, every single rep, and every single set just to grow. And that's where you get to become more of an advanced lifter, where it's like moving a mountain just to get a pound of muscle.
Yeah, I mean, that comes down to pretty much science, right? That's contracting every muscle. I mean, I don't do that. You know what I mean?
You're focusing on, you're taking as heavy a weight as you can and you're controlling it through as deep a range of motion as you can. And you know how to put your, what I call, it's like a pain threshold. So your lifting threshold is different from beginner to intermediate to advanced. Beginners do not have a very high lifting threshold or pain threshold. They're used to pushing themselves only this much and they think that's 100%, when really they have like another 60% left. Intermediate, they know how to push themselves, but they haven't learned how to truly grit through the last bit yet. And that intermediate lifter, they're getting gains, they're doing well, they're getting close enough to failure that they're getting results. But the advanced lifter knows that means you still have 2 to 3 more reps left, and you just have to grit through it and have really good form integrity and don't let your form break. So that's kind of the difference. Now, if someone is a beginner and they want to start on a program and things like that, start with just a few days a week. Start light, focus on your form, progress on that, become a student of every single movement, learn how the muscles grow, what you need to do to make those muscles grow, which is get close enough to failure within 5 reps of true failure. But focus on being able to control those weights and build stability in those movements first. Because if you don't have stability in those movements and you start trying to progress too fast, you're going to injure yourself.
Right.
Because you don't have the stability, which means if you happen to be off balance with anything, then it's going.
Oof,
Whereas like say for bench is a very common one where people will mess up on, or even squats.
Yeah.
They go and try to progress too fast and put too much weight on the bar, and they go down into their rep and they go to press and they're pushing, but then it gets off balance and now that bar starts going backwards and now it's all triceps and it, you can really hurt yourself. Someone's died doing that in their house.
Yeah, dude. It's crazy to me. And a lot of, not just beginners, a lot of, like, I guess you could say, quote unquote,
advanced.
I don't know if that's like ego lifters still do it,
Yeah.
It's just like, you see it all the time at the gym. Mm-hmm. And then I was at LVAC a couple of times and I actually had to help someone. I mean, good for them for trying. I'm not knocking on them, but it's just, dang, dude, they're like really like threading that new.
In my opinion, that's completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
I don't use spotters. I lift on my own all the time. I push myself close to failure all the time. But you have to learn your limits and you have to be patient with your progress. The biggest thing is people get so impatient with the progress that building muscle takes a lot longer than losing fat does. All right. Losing fat is quick because all you have to do is be in a pretty big deficit, eat high protein, get good sleep, and you're going to lose the fat and you'll keep your muscle as long as you're also weight training too. That helps. But building muscle takes a lot of effort to do. Muscle's gold. Muscle's like gold for your body. And it takes a lot to get it. And once you have it, you need to hold on to it because it's also longevity.
Yeah. It's just like a constant repetitions, right? Of each muscle group. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like a compound interest too. Mm-hmm. So what I get a lot, especially when I started, most people, I think they'll give up just because they don't see the results. They want to see immediate results. That's a thing, right? Yeah. That's probably the most common way of thinking when it comes to the beginners. That's why you see these New Year's resolutions fail. It's like, oh my goodness, I've been working for a month. And like you said, the pain threshold is at 100 for them. Yeah. Like they think it's at 100 for them, but really it's like, they just haven't, they're just not used to pushing one more rep.
But that's where a good trainer comes into play is because the trainer can see that they have this much left in the tank when they really think they're at 100%. So a good trainer will know how to slowly start increasing that threshold for them over time instead of just trying to jump the whole gap right away. Then they'll get, shocked and be like, oh, maybe I don't really want to do this anymore.
Would you say it's kind of like it's a trust thing too, right? Mm-hmm. Like the relationship you have with your clients. Of course they're there to work out. Yeah. But it's also like a emotional relationship being built there.
Oh, 100%.
For them to go to you. I mean, there's millions of trainers out there, probably thousands in Las Vegas. And for them to go to you, you have to be able to gain their trust.
Exactly. Yeah. So you start them really easy, really light. Then you slowly, once you see that they're starting getting more stable with stuff and learning the movements, then you slowly increase from there. And a good trainer will know how to recognize that and how to slowly move that needle for them without them really knowing they're moving that needle. Right. And then you push them just enough. You built some trust and you push them just enough to push past where they thought they could go. And then they see like, oh, wow, you could do it. And then you're just like, I told you, man, you got this. Like, you can do this. Mm. And then they build more trust because they're like, he told me to do this. I decided to trust him. It worked out exactly how he told me to do it, or she, depending on your trainer. And it worked out. And now I trust this trainer even more.
Right, exactly. And then they feel good after.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And a good trainer is going to be able to help them in those beginning stages of learning how to increase that threshold, how to properly do these movements, how to connect to them as well, because that's very important. The faster that you can learn to connect your mind-muscle connection, the faster you're going to improve when it comes to gym. The more you can isolate those muscles and connect to them and feel them doing the movements that they're supposed to be doing, the faster that person's going to progress. And sometimes it takes longer for others.
What got you into this whole fitness game, man? Like, when did it start for you? Have you been working out since junior high or something? Or did you?
So, yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So for me, I started lifting sophomore year in high school. We had a lifting class. All right. And
like weight training class?
I was like 125 pounds back then, very skinny, very small. Soccer player. I played through college. But in sophomore year of high school, I joined my first lifting class, and one of my good buddies from elementary school was in that same class. So I partnered with him. 50 pounds heavier than me. He was 50 pounds heavier than me. His name was Joey Sod. I don't really know what he does nowadays very much, but
shout out Joey Sod.
Yeah, Joey Sod. Appreciate you. Started all of this. Yeah. But he was a lot stronger than me. My max bench was 85 pounds total on the bar for 1 rep. That was my max in sophomore year of high school. By the end of that semester, so only like a few months later, my max shot up to 175. So it jumped up 90 pounds, 90 pound jump in one semester. But that's also the thing. So for people that are beginners, they can grow a lot faster. Their bodies are ready for adaptation. So they need to take absolute advantage of the first year to 2 years, because they're going to get the most growth they've ever gotten in the first year to 2 years, unless they take steroids later, which I don't do. Right. I don't care to do. But yeah, they need to take advantage of that. So yeah, that started for me sophomore year. I've been lifting ever since. I didn't know a lot. And I was pretty consistent, but I didn't really push myself. I was that person I would slowly push here and there. And I gained a little bit over time, and I was very patient with my gains. I wasn't in the gym every day after that trying to like get as big as I could. I just went to lift and feel good. And then that was it, you know, and I just kept going. Then I went into college athletics and had a coach that was our trainer. And so I was introduced to different types of workouts and stuff there. But basically, I just always stayed working out. I withdrew from college. We'd moved out here. I got a job at LVAC as a front desk guy.
Oh, yeah? Which one?
Yeah, the one on Rainbow right up the road here.
Cool.
Rainbow 215. That was about 12 years ago now. 19 years old, just checking people in, the front desk, you know. And I looked good for a skinny guy, was still very skinny. And basically, fast forward, I get a good job at Omnia nightclub, bussing tables, making good money, continue to work out. That has never changed for me. Training in the gym, going to the gym has always been it's always been my therapy and my let go. That's been my time. You know, I've had a lot of workout buddies over the years, but I like working out alone. That's my time.
Me too, man. That I have to agree with that. I made this joke with a girl I was dating at one time, and she was like, "Yeah, we should go to the gym together." I was like, "Nah." Yeah. It's just because it's my time, and I get it. It's almost like, all right, well, yeah, I know you want to do things together, but I'm not gonna take you to my mixed martial arts gym. Like, even though I know the first few times it'll be fun and it's just something to do, but I take that pretty seriously, honestly.
So what, you said it like a joke, but you actually meant it?
Yes. And she knew, like, she was like, "Oh, you're not joking."
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I'll train with my girl sometimes, just because she works hard. She works out hard.
Sure, yeah.
You know, she grew up in Hawaii, so she's raised like however that is, and they're pretty tough people out there. So,
they are, yeah. They're
so she, you know, she works out really hard. So we mesh well, but I still like my time.
Yeah.
And perfect, I think that stems from like my high school days when I first started working out. Is I didn't have the best home life. Parents divorced. Mom wasn't doing the best stuff. You know, alcoholic, that kind of thing. Now she's good, thank God. But back then it was rough. You know, I took myself to school. Took myself to soccer practice, told myself to do homework, you know, graduated with a 3.7. So I did pretty good. I still failed a couple classes because I had senioritis, but still with some F's, I graduated with 3.7. And yeah, home life wasn't great. And so I had some dumbbells in my room, and working out was my outlet. So I think now that's why I continued to do it, because that was always my outlet.
Yeah.
You know, so now fast forward 15 years later, pandemic hits. I was still working at Omnia nightclub, so out of a job for some time. I was at home doing nothing. I started gaining weight for the first time in my life, like unhealthy weight, because I was drinking wine and doing puzzles all the time.
I'm sure everyone was, man.
Yeah, we all
joined like the 99%.
The puzzle section was wiped clean during COVID. By everybody. Right. That and the wine section probably with just the shelves were empty.
For sure, bro.
Yeah, so it tells where everyone's priorities were.
Bro, I know I bought like 3 liters of like, I was drinking at that time too, of like Jameson or whatever, some cheap stuff like Jim Beam.
Yeah.
because of the thing they had with the toilet paper.
Yeah. So you stock up.
Bro, I thought that alcohol was next.
Yeah.
Because people are going to be crapped up at home, you know? And little did you know, they had to keep those liquor stores open because people actually go through withdrawals and die.
Oh yeah.
That's why it was one of those essential things that they had to keep open.
That actually makes sense.
Yeah. Like
That's
they go,
crazy.
you can die if you don't.
I knew that,
have
but
it.
I didn't think about that of why they keep it open. That makes sense. It's almost like a health and safety thing.
Yeah.
To keep a liquor store open, which is wild.
Right. Anyway,
Dang.
like, so with what you were talking about, I think, in some sort of way to kind of show your resilience, it's good that you kind of fall off a bit because it teaches you a lesson, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we both know that. And you fall off. But then the great part about it is that since you've had the skill set to be able to work out, you can actually get back into it. Now, it's hard, like anything else, it's going to take some work, but you have the skill sets, which if you've never worked out, hell, you don't even know where to start. You don't even know where to begin. So that's good that you kind of have that in your toolbox, just in case you say get injured and then you have to go through rehab and then you're out for a year.
Yeah.
You could get right back into it because you have the knowledge work to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's great. And I think that all my years of lifting kind of prepared me for, that kind of setback. So I'm in COVID, I'm gaining weight. My abs are finally like starting to go away for the first time in my life. I've always just been that skinny kid that was active, very active. So I stayed lean. I lifted all the time too. And I didn't like that I was, losing my abs for the first time in my life. The first time in my life, I was like 23 or 4.
Yeah.
And so I was like, ooh, something's got to change. So I bought some dip bars and a weighted vest, and I started doing home workouts. And I was like, oh, maybe I can just, make a workout page and start posting content of like my home workouts and stuff like that. And so Maddie Stay Fit was born, that page. And then next thing I know, I'm like, well, we're getting this stimulus money and I don't really have any other way to make money right now. And I was like, maybe I can just start doing some training. So I get a certification from NCEP, a national one. And then I bought like a little bit of equipment, some janky equipment. I reached out to a few friends and I started training for $10 an hour out of my garage at home. $10 a session for, actually that was an hour, 15 sessions, because I was like, they need 15 minutes of warm up. So I was doing this whole thing. And that was when I first started. So I didn't really know that they could just come and warm up on their own beforehand. So I'd schedule a whole 15 minutes extra so they get their warm up and their hour workout.
Sure.
Yeah. So I started for $10 an hour in my garage, and I had a crappy squat rack from Amazon and a barbell I found on OfferUp. Some weights I found on OfferUp, and some Bowflex interchangeable dumbbells that I had since high school that kind of was the ones that I was working out with in my room when I was an angry little kid. Yep. And that was where my training business started.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like those kinds of stories, man. Just looking back at it.
I think the biggest thought process that went into it was like, I was like, working out has always been part of my life. It's always been just my lifestyle, my non-negotiable. It's been a non-negotiable for me. If things came up, I made sure I hit my workout, and then I'd go out and do stuff. It was my thing. And I was like, maybe I can teach people how to do that too, how to just live the lifestyle and how to make it part of, so it's not a chore. It's part of who they are. It's what they do, just like sleeping at night, brushing your teeth, all these things. So maybe I can just teach people how to live the life that I've been living for so long that's created the body that I have.
Yeah, very
And that's
motivating.
why I started, personal training. So I was like, maybe this is what I need to do. Because I've gone through so many self-development phases before that. And what I heard from some podcast somewhere was that think about the thing that has always been subconscious, super easy for you, and that you've always naturally been really good at. I was like, oh, that's like athletics and that's weight training. That's lifting weights in sports. I was like, maybe that's where my future is. And I'd quit everything else before that. I'd quit college, quit other business ideas. I've quit college twice. I was going to be an engineer, then I was going to be a physical therapist, and I quit both of those. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll start this. And once I got that certification and started going, I was like, once I go back to work at Omni and stuff, I'll keep doing this. And I was like, maybe this is going to be the thing I finally follow through with, because I'd always quit on everything else. Like when I had to put extra effort, when I couldn't skate by on natural ability anymore. So I did that with soccer too. I quit because I was just like, well, that's as much as I'm going to get with my natural abilities. If I want to go to the next level, I'm going to have to really work my ass off to get there. And so that's where I stopped in college.
Yeah, we all definitely have those unfair advantages, as I like to call it. And, you know, sometimes it's not even just being athletic. You could use your brain. You could be really charismatic. You could be a good salesman. It could just be in anything.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something that we kind of figure out along the way. And, you know, good for you for even taking the step to do it, because it's one thing. So here's another concept, that it's one thing to be good at something, and it's one thing to make it into a business.
Yeah.
Because both are very, very different, right? I kind of had a run-in with that on getting a little anecdotal here, but then I used to train martial arts, which I really like doing because I knew it changed people's lives.
Yeah.
But then in the long run, I come to find out that I was like, oh, training martial arts and teaching people martial arts and making it into a business, it's way different. The business aspect, honestly, I didn't like too much. The helping people, I did because I knew the way it made them feel, right?
Yeah.
I knew they felt like Superman right after. And, you know, you're getting a whole bunch of skill sets. But that's what I quickly found out. I was like, oh, okay. Probably not the route to kind of go to.
Yeah, keep it your hobby.
Then. Keep it my hobby, exactly.
And give pointers if someone asks for it. And that's really about it as far as it should go at that point. And that's the thing, is like, I ended up realizing that it is different to be good at something and make a business out of something.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, there's so much more that goes into making it a business that can also make it not fun.
Yes. I wouldn't mind teaching. Like I said, I like the teaching aspect of things because I just like to teach, right? And that's not just in martial arts. I like to teach people what I learned, even though I'm not an expert at it. If I truly believe in that principle and it makes sense, like say if you tell me, oh, sleep is like the number one cause to lose fat and I'm going to tell someone that and be like, hey man, you know what this trainer I had on my podcast said? It makes fucking sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just like to tell people like useful information. I think that's what I was teaching with martial arts.
Which makes sense why you have a podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
It's exactly what you're doing.
Right. It's just to be informative. And again, I don't know if you knew this, but I used to, I'm sure you've heard from our mutual friends, but then I used to drink a lot, a lot, and I go bonkers. I was worst of the worst. But
some would probably say a fun time, but it's only fun for the people watching.
Exactly.
It's not fun for the person doing it and going through it.
Yeah. And that feeling of not being able to be, what I do and don't tell me, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. And I had way too many regrets when it came down to that. But anyway, it's just, it's just one of those things where you kind of transcend, you kind of realize what's good for you, I guess, you know? And just going back to what you were saying, I wanted to optimize what the best talents I had for myself.
Yeah.
So that's why I like to hear those kinds of stories where how people got started, because ultimately in the end, even you make amount of clients, it's never good enough, right? It's never like, it's good that you're helping people, but it's the goalpost is going to keep moving regardless of how many.
Does. And so if you step back and have that mindset of like just progress, focusing on progress and just always just trying to do better and enjoy that process of it, instead of being like, this is where I need to go. Like, I just want to see if I can help this person, and then help the next person.
Right.
And then, and then how can I help more people? Okay, cool. Now there's this new project that's going to allow me to help more people and put my thoughts into a better system so I can help even more people, you know, instead of it just being this thing where it's never good enough, be like, it's always good enough. And we just keep trying to do a little bit more.
It's all you can do. You could just do your very best.
Yeah, exactly.
So going back to it, we have these mutual friends that you did.
Okay.
Like a program with, a training program with. What was it, like experimental? What transformative kind of thing?
So we were in a group chat. We have a group chat between me, Bobby, and Joe. Mutual friends of ours, and we call it the Coalition, because
the nation of domination.
Yeah, because it's us three boys, these three girls that are best friends, right? Mel, Jay, and Jane, and they're three best friends, and we're the boyfriends that met each other. We're all the boyfriends that met each other, right? Boyfriends, and then the one that's a husband, and And so we have our group chat, and one day they're talking about like fitness or health or whatever. And I'm like, guys, I do like online training or whatever, you know, and Bobby's like, we should do that together. We should do that. And Joe's like, no, I'm like about to buy a house. Like, I'm not going to invest in that. He's like, but let's make
Joe,
he's like, but let's make a competition out of this. In 3 months, let's see who can lose the most body fat. And Bobby's like, well, okay. And I'm going to get on a program with Matt. And Joe's like, I'm going to do it myself.
Yeah.
So Joe's doing it himself, and Bobby gets on a program with me, 100% online program. We didn't meet once during this time to train or give him tips or pointers. It was all online. And this is funny because this goes back to the first question about losing fat and building muscle. So this is why it's going to be interesting, is that Joe didn't do a ton of working out and lifting weights or pushing himself too hard in the gym on a program. He just focused on dieting and then working his job a lot, maybe doing a little bit of cardio. I'm not sure if he did much cardio or not, but he does work a very active job. I think he had 2 jobs. And so he was active and focusing on his nutrition, right? And then Bobby is on a very minimalist strength and conditioning program with me. And he's also a full-time job, and he's has a newborn. He's a newborn dad. And for this 3 months, they both lost about 30 pounds. Both of them, the same, and they're both different sizes, different backgrounds. Joe's worked out before in the past. Bobby used to work out a ton in the past, so he's probably predisposed to some more muscle, I would say. But just this simple change that Bobby was strength training and not even doing a ton of it, but I would get on his ass to work out. You got to get your workouts in. Like, you're doing great with the nutrition, get your workouts in. So getting on top of him about that, and he was doing it. And then Joe just focusing on the nutrition aspect. They both lost 30 pounds, but Joe also lost some muscle.
Right.
So, and Bobby maintained all of his muscle, if not gained muscle, because we're in a progressive overload program, and he would push himself from time to time. And you don't need a lot, especially if you haven't worked out in a long time and your body's ready for adaptation. You don't have to work out a ton to get some change. Well, Bobby's body fat percent went down by 8%.
Wow.
He went from 215 pounds to about 185. Veins popping through his arms, 6-pack starting to show through. And he's down to like, I don't even remember the body fat percent. I think it was close to like 15-ish. He hit the 15 mark is what he did. And that's where he wanted to go in 3 months, 30 pounds. But he won because he was strength training during the time and maintaining his muscle mass, if not building some muscle, while Joe wasn't. So he lost some muscle mass and kept some body fat. So it's like, yeah.
That's a great example.
So that's
a great example.
Yeah. So building muscle, you can do that while losing fat, because they're 2 completely separate systems. You just have to make sure a few key points are in place, and you can absolutely build muscle and lose fat at the same time. But it is harder, and you have to realize that there are things that are going to happen. If you're in a deficit, you're going to feel tired. Your brain's going to get tired faster. And you're not going to have as much energy to push as much weight as you'd like to be pushing, but you need to show up anyways.
Yep.
And as long as you get close enough to failure within 5 reps, you will stimulate adaptation for muscle growth. And just the sheer fact of increasing, and that's the thing, is I wasn't even being strict. I don't do strict diets. I don't do strict programs. I just teach very simple things, and I have them send me photos of their meals. And I will take little things out of those meals and say, okay, meal looks great, but let's do this little change next time. So what I'm doing is I don't like to say conditioning, but it is conditioning, teaching them how to change very small things about their already lifestyle that they like to live, changing very small things or finding answers to these small problems and switching them over a period of time. So now it doesn't feel like that I've completely turned their lives upside down and changed everything. It feels like they're not even on a diet. It feels like I'm not asking too much of them. And the next thing you know, they're losing fat, building muscle. And they're like, wow, this was actually a lot less painless than I thought. Because we're so used to being put on diets and all these crazy things that it's really not about being on the diet. It's about proportions, and it's about, making the right small choices, and that there's multiple options. Just like there's multiple solutions to every problem, there's multiple options for all the foods that you're eating.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah, dude, I know that's my way of thinking when I didn't know how to eat properly, for sure. It was just to go from one extreme to another, right? All I could think of at the top of my head when I first started was, yeah, you need to eat healthier, was stale chicken breast and asparagus, like unseasoned asparagus. For some reason, I had that in my head. But as more information and more guys like you that are coming up and are very knowledge filled with your expertise, you start to realize that you can eat. This is probably the wrong statement, but you can like go far as your diet. What you can eat. Yeah. For most people that are dreading, just when you hear the diet, it makes a lot of people cringe. It's like, what? Yeah, I can't. What do you mean?
No, they do. Well, it has a bad connotation to it. It really does, because diet is now linked with going on a strict thing that isn't going to be comfortable, that you're not going to like. Well, then if it's like that, how are you going to maintain it? So if it's something that's already like you're dreading it, there's zero chance of you making a lifestyle out of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's not sustainable.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why when people come to me, can you make me a nutrition plan? I'm like, or a diet plan. I'm like, I don't do that. I'm like, if I put you on one, it's not gonna stick. The guys at Mind Pump Media, are you familiar with Mind Pump Media, another podcast?
I heard about it.
Yeah, they're like one of the leading fitness podcasts. They say diets don't stick, and I agree. And they have 12, 15, 20 years of experience between each one of them. I think there's 3 of them or maybe 4 on there. And they're like, that was one of the biggest painful things I had to learn, is that diets don't work. They don't stick. You need to address a lifestyle. And so that's what I do, is I refuse to put people on diets. And I say, I just want to see what you're eating on a daily basis. Yeah. And I'm going to say, okay, now this is what we switch. Okay, since you're doing this, now we're going to change this instead. Do you think you can do that? Yeah, sweet, cool. They change that. Next thing you know, they drop 10 pounds. Okay, now what's the next thing? Now the next thing is, okay, well, your sleep sucks, and you think you're active, but you're not, because you're sitting at a desk all day. You go to your workout, but then the rest of the 8 hours per day, you're sitting on the couch or sitting in your cubicle. Okay, well, during your lunch period, maybe let's do this instead. Let's go on a walk right after you're done eating. After you're done eating, walk. And this also helps with blood sugar and stuff like that, and metabolism, things like that. So that's another little thing, that we just start changing little things instead of putting them on this strict diet that they're not going to be able to maintain. And then what happens is they lose the weight or whatever, and then they blow right back up again. Right. Whereas the whole reason why I named my brand Stay Fit is because I want to change your lifestyle and change small things so that you can get fit and stay fit. For sure. So that when you're done with a program with me, you don't need to continue on another program if you do not want to, that you know how to do it yourself and you have the new habits. You're a new person. Okay, I changed the person. I'm not changing your diet. I'm changing your habits and who you are, and now this is what you do now. And that's going to keep you healthy and happy and whatever else. Exactly. Just a sustainable behavioral change. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. For sure. What do you think is the state of like social media nowadays with a lot of how can you suss out the people? There's so much information out there that how can you suss out kind of the people that, and this is for obviously that people that have, are looking at social media. It's like, I want to be that. And that listen to everything that the highlight Instagram Reels feeds you. What do you think, first of all, what do you think the current state of that is? Do you think there's a lot of bullshit out there? There's so much bullshit. Okay. There's so much bullshit out there, that these influencers that happen to look good, but don't actually know the science, don't actually know the information on health and fitness. They're saying, do this and you're going to get a 6-pack. But they're just trying to make money. And they already get a lot of views because they're an influencer. And so they're just doing it to make money, when really it's just not going to change, the position for that individual watching. So that's a good question on how to get through that and figure out what's true and what's wrong. Basically though, it comes down to finding the people that actually do know what they're talking about on, say, YouTube, doctors that have, like fitness Instagrams or whatever it might be, people that actually have either earned the degree or are certified personal trainers that have been doing it for a long time. You have to seek those people out and know what to look for. And it's hard to do sometimes. So you have to see something, but then maybe go and Google it and try to fact check it.
Yeah,
and see if
exactly.
you're finding that same thing. But that's also another can of worms. You can find everything on Google now. Like you can find that's the right answer on Google, or it's the wrong. Like it's hard to tell the difference
It's
anymore.
true. I think the good thing about seeing it on video is that I think for the most part, people have what I call is a good bullshit meter.
Yeah.
Like for the most part, you can tell in a long enough time scale if people are lying to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if you watch their content enough, it's like, wait, this doesn't add up. This is what he keeps doing, this like ridiculous stuff that I don't see. On a long enough time scale, yeah, people are gonna like figure you out.
Yeah.
What would so since we are, I guess you could say, in the marketing creator space, with this podcast and with your fitness business, what is your social media strategy pretty much? For just not even fitness, just content creators in general.
So I just try to have a few categories and give a variety of stuff out there. But the biggest thing is I want to educate. So I want to put the right information out there. So I do my own research and find these things through these other channels and research articles and things that I've found. People that are actually legit that I found, and I followed their pages and their careers for a long time. People like Thomas DeLauer.
Yep.
People like Mind Pump Media, who is all about health and fitness. They have successful business for a very long time. All of them have been longtime personal trainers. They give science to back everything that they talk about.
Data's a big one.
Yeah, all of that stuff. The science to back it. That's the big thing. Is if you're hearing something and they have science to back it, then you know that okay, that's probably a lot more legit than this person that's like posting their shirtless body all the time, talking about this ab exercise is going to give you a six pack when they're not talking about nutrition, stuff like that. So my kind of media strategy now is more so about giving value. I want to educate.
Right.
I like to talk. I like to teach. I like to learn and give that information to all of my friends and family and people that I know. So my strategy is to post a lot of informational stuff, but then people also want to see that I know what the hell I'm talking about. So they want to see me lift. So I'll post me lifting, me, doing 4-plate deadlift, no belt, stuff like that, doing it very clean, healthy stuff that people are like, oh, okay, he must know what he's doing because that was a very clean, very solid deadlift or squat or whatever it might be, doing it with control, so it also brings validation to my words because they're like, okay, well, I see him lift, I hear him talking about these things, giving statistics, providing value. Then when it comes to be a time that they need help, maybe they'll reach out to me.
Yeah, it's almost like a walk it like you talk it, right? Mm-hmm. And listen, for the guys out there that are starting off and you have some knowledge, you kind of want to get out to the world, it would be helpful for someone. Alex Ramosi said it best, right?
Yeah.
The business guy, he said that even though you're not an expert at it, as long as you're honest and if you can say like, this actually blew my mind. It's so simple, but if you can say that, well, what I would do, not kind of, oh, this is what you do.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Because if you don't, look, I understand that people have to start off somewhere, right? Just like me and you, how we started off. And it's not like, yeah, you're right. The expertise thing matters. But I think if you're just starting off, it's how I would do it. You should probably like make a disclaimer
That's
saying, look, it worked for me, right? And then it's more like, okay, it worked for him. He's not just bossing me around and telling me what to do and thinks he's like a guru.
This is going to work for you. It's saying, well, what I would do. That's a very powerful change of words to use
blew my
instead.
mind. Yeah, it was like, because if you have someone, so what I also learned from psychology, if you have someone telling you what to do, most likely they're probably going to go the other way. It's like a contrarian kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to start using that.
Yeah.
It's like, because I usually say, okay, you should do this or you should do that.
Right.
I'm going to start using that, what I would do.
Yeah.
Well, if that's something that's good enough for you, then maybe it's good enough for me too. And they get to make their own choice.
Yes.
Instead of saying, oh, he's just telling me to do this.
Exactly. And then it kind of builds more trust with the audience.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, for sure, man.
That's smart.
Yeah, it really blew my mind. And I go through the same thing. I post martial arts videos for fun. like with me doing martial arts, because like you said, like walk it like you talk it, right? People need to see that.
Yeah.
Sometimes on my stories. And yeah, it's just when they see that, it adds more, I guess you could say, authority. It's like, oh, this guy isn't bullshit. Like,
Yeah.
that's good form. Like you said,
Yeah.
he's doing a good form when it came to lift. That's how I feel when I
Yeah.
punch and kick and do combos and shit. You can tell the difference if you, like you even somewhat had like a month of training,
Yeah.
how their form is, just
Yeah.
like lifting. It's like, oh, okay, I kind of know where he's at in this journey. And yeah, like, so we're like able to kind of fix that from there.
And so I think another part of content I'm going to start doing now that I have a guy helping me out is I'm going to start doing some like mic'd up stuff where you can hear me talking to my client through an exercise, especially if it's a new exercise. You can hear the verbal cues I'm giving them.
Yeah,
you can hear the things that you're supposed to remember while you're doing it, and tips to do it properly. So they can hear that kind of coaching, so that maybe they'll get the value from that as well. And then also it brings some like social status to myself as a trainer.
Absolutely. It also brings trust to your audience.
So finding a
Yeah.
trainer, I think going back to the other question, finding a trainer that does those things, I think is going to be helpful for you, but also maybe don't even go the aspect of looking for them online all the time. If you have a few friends, at least one of them will know a good trainer.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah, ask them. They've gotten them results potentially, and then that's a good place to start.
Awesome, dude. Well, man, that was some good information. I don't want to overload people with there's so much that go into it, but
Yeah.
we've covered pretty much what we needed to cover as far as
cool.
the basics, obviously. But yeah, man, thank you for coming, and that was great insight. Where can people find you, man?
Instagram _Matty.stayfit _.
Yep.
And then just pretty much Instagram.
Perfect, man. Well, I appreciate you, man.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.